We're so lucky. Just where we get dropped out of the womb, we're so lucky. You got to share it.
Uh-huh.
If the light bulb goes off and you actually figure out, or think you figure out how to get happy through this journey, you got to try and share it. Because I did a talk at the Culinary Institute, a graduation, and I said, you guys are so lucky. You're going to walk into these, fine dining restaurants. You're going to make a lot of money. You're going to make $100 dinners for people. You're going to walk out your front door, and to the left and to the right are going to be homeless people. And you can either feed them because it's the right thing to do and out of compassion, or you can feed them because if you know they're going to break your window and steal everything from the restaurant. But either way, do it.
Right.
And if you do it enough times, you're going to start to feel good. And that's what I try to relay to other folks. I don't really have any, I've never had a spiritual practice. But I guess in some ways what I do is
it's interesting, the way, obviously there's a lot of different ways of looking at all this, but so the classical Buddhist paradigm is that part of the spiritual practice is just kind of training your own mind and sort of getting more familiar with your own emotional and mental landscape so that you're not surprised by it, it's not obstructing your operation. But a much bigger part is just how you interact with other people and other beings even. So that's it's called Mahayana, the big. That's the Dalai Lama's huge spread, and there is no practice for that other than actually doing it. There's little thoughts about it, like, well, what if this comes up or what if that comes up, but they all lead towards opening, outward. So I would say that is a form of practice. Especially if maybe at some point you go I don't want to, you know what I mean? That comes up or you want to pull back and go not for this person. Then it becomes kind of a practice. Look, are you getting?
I've had that. I've felt that tinge. I get very. What's the word I'm looking for? I feel guilty when I do that. I do it
when you pull back. Yeah. So some of those practices are about how to work with that.
And in the practice, does it say it's ever right to pull back? Do you follow an instinct?
Yeah, I think the subtler and more contemporary version of it would be, it's not about creating a lack of boundaries, for example, or codependence. That wouldn't be the point. So you could create a healthy boundary in a situation, but it's probably going to be good for the other person too at that point. Because, that might be what they need, communication-wise. But so it doesn't mean compassion is not always sickly sweet. It's not always nice. It can be clear at some points. No, you should stop doing that.
Good thought.
Yeah.
But if I don't help somebody, I always feel a little guilty, but I feel it. Like there's a reason it's good for it. But that's a nice way to look at it.
Yeah, it's deep because then also, there's a famous guy in the history of Buddhism named Atisha, and he was practicing his compassion so fully that he wanted to have irritating people around him so he could practice his patience. That's kind of extreme. He's kind of famous, Buddhist explorer that way. And they said that when he went to Tibet, he was going up to Tibet and they asked him to come and teach there. And he was concerned because he heard the Tibetans were really kind of nice and happy people and benevolent, and he wouldn't be able to practice his patience there. So he had a Bengali kid, a chaiwala, tea servant, who was an obnoxious, bratty teen kid. And he said, well, I'll take him along and then I'll be able to continue to practice.